Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. At last, you've arrived at a channel where you're sincerely welcome and appreciated, particularly without any ulterior motives. You'll see that I don't try to sell any products here, nor do I host any commercials. Instead, I get energized by providing free teaching on spiritual truths and self-mastery. And in this case, life mastery of sensuality and seduction, okay? If you're smart enough to watch through to the end of this presentation, then I'm sure this video will be a great source of relationship motivation to you. If you're encouraged by the content, please be so kind as to subscribe to this channel and help others by sharing it. Incidentally, if you hit the like button, watch to the end, or comment, it sends a signal to YouTube through their electronic algorithm system. Then eventually the video is circulated to others interested in this topic. After spending 7 years obtaining a second-degree black sash at the Shaolin Kung Fu Academy and having several Cantonese and Mandarin speaking masters, which we called Shifus, I'll be giving you my perspective today about how a seducer would conduct themselves if they were from China, Singapore, Malaysia, Hong Kong, or even Taiwan. Before we get into details, however, I'd like to share a story I heard about a 75-year-old man that bought his first sports car. It was a new supercharged Mustang Shelby Cobra with over 700 horsepower. One Sunday afternoon, he decided to see what the car was capable of, so he took it for a speed trial on Interstate 10 outside of Las Vegas. After hitting 90 miles an hour in just 5 seconds, he saw a highway patrolman in his rearview mirror. So he thought, I'm gonna dust this old boy. He then floored it and got up to 125 miles an hour with no problem. In the distance, he now saw 2 state troopers with their lights on following him. So he came to his senses and he decided to pull over with full knowledge he had the fastest car around. The first trooper pulled in front of him and the second one eased up behind him. As the officer came to the window, he asked the old timer for his ID and registration, and the 75-year-old smiled gently, and he said he had never owned a muscle car in the past and he was just testing out his new sports car. The state trooper could see that he was an innocent old man, so he said that it was the weekend and his shift was almost over. So if the old speedster could give him a real good reason for going 50 miles an hour over the speed limit, he'd let him off with a warning. The old man hesitated for a moment and he said, Officer, the real reason for the excessive speed today was because my wife ran away and had an affair with a state trooper over 35 years ago. He said he was speeding that fast because he thought the trooper was trying to bring her back to him. The patrolman smiled and said, have a nice weekend. Huh? What? No applause? No flowers for me today? Because we're talking about mastering both seduction and sensuality, I'd like to begin by defining both terms and using them in a sentence so there's no confusion out there. First, let's define seduction. Dictionary.com defines the word as the act of seducing, especially sexually, including both enticement and temptation. Used in a sentence, a good writer is able to seduce you into reading more as he teaches you how to master seduction in real life situations. Sensuality is defined as indulgence in sensual pleasures. The senses are the root word here, either in a sexual capacity or by excitement of the senses. Used in a sentence, the wind blowing through her hair and upon her skin was a sensual delight. In a more explicit sentence, we can say the moonlit room and the fragrant massage oil was the beginning of unbridled sensuality. So, what am I trying to accomplish by defining these words? First of all, it's to help you understand that you can be seduced into reading a book, and you can enjoy sensual pleasures by simply listening to romantic music in a moonlit room. This means if you're viewing this with a perverted mind and a desire to hear some form of pornographic instruction, you've come to the wrong place. This video presentation is based on proven psychological techniques and is geared especially for those trying to enhance their relationships with the opposite sex. This is not a course on how to take advantage of others, trick them into sexual encounters, or any other form of manipulation. Having said that, it's important to know that what I'm about to share in this video can be rather dangerous. That's right. For example, this content can be used to save or destroy lives, including your own. Are you listening? We all see videos on YouTube that say in the title area, do not use this information to harm or manipulate others. What I'm saying is that if you do not carefully consider what you're about to hear, it can backfire on you and end up hurting you or others in more ways than just one. Also, I'd like to share with you that at first glance, this presentation may appear similar to a book by Robert Greene, a well-known author, and I'm thinking about The Art of Seduction. To clarify, this presentation may carry some of those concepts, but is inherently different. Rather, it's a compilation of several books written by 20th century and 21st century psychologists, psychoanalysts, and relationship counselors. Additionally, I've added my own personal experience of over 25 years as a single man that has had both the pleasure and the pain of more than 50 relationships over that period of time. I'm therefore taking that experience and infusing it into what I know in the areas of both psychology and relationship counseling. Let's begin talking about the secrets to understanding the psychology connected to attraction and seduction, and several keys to successfully entice potential lovers or even devoted followers. Although this advice is more geared to the male pursuer, if you're female, I'm sure you'll benefit from this counseling as well. So listen on. In all honesty, unless you're too old to be aroused, too young to understand this topic, or physically debilitated and ill, the truth is that almost everyone that has sexual ability is extremely interested in this subject and loves the experience of seduction. Said in a slightly different way, who doesn't want the intoxicating thrill of being adored, touched, and sexually stimulated to points that exceed climax? If you've been on the seducing end of this equation, you'll understand how exhilarating it is to have the skill to influence someone in a sensual and sexual way to achieve your desires. Once you've mastered this relationship skill, it can be taken out of the love relationship and actually used in business relationships and more. Someone just said, what makes this guy an expert on seducing attractive women and bending them to his will? I mean, look at this bastard with sunglasses. I'm not very impressed at all by him. Who does he think he is? Trying to give me advice on seduction and sensuality, you might be thinking. Well, may I answer that uncool criticism by saying, after over 30 years as an adult, friends, former lovers, and even followers compliment me on my way of communicating with women. Some say I'm pretty smooth at it. My level of intrigue and enticement over pretty women, and other skills that may be a little too graphic to talk about publicly on this type of forum. The point is not to brag, but simply that I've been focused on mastering love relationships and self-improvement for more years than I care to admit, in both communication and my external appearance. It has been a lifelong endeavor in self-actualization and learning how to seduce pretty women, not to take advantage of them, then dump them, but rather to enjoy the thrill of the passion. Lastly, I believe I've mastered the male-female relationship issue and will never abdicate control over to any sexy woman, no matter how hot she is. Being a great seducer means staying in control over the love and sex topics of the relationship and never being taken advantage of. Although I've had more fiancés that are very attractive than the average man, I've also made huge mistakes along the way. And I've been victim to major manipulation and reverse seduction, which means that I've been seduced, then ripped off and cheated on. Obviously, this caused many relationship breakups. I've therefore taken those many years of experience and injected them into portions of this message for your benefit. So I'm speaking partially from experience, right? But also from being very well read on the subject of love relationships, seduction, and the psychology connected to the male-female interaction. Lastly, you'll be hearing the voices of famous relationship experts, psychoanalysts, authors, and counselors during this presentation if you listen carefully. And I am completely aware that this material is controversial and very irritating to many women and some men. And some have told me through hateful comments that I'm an idiot, retarded, a misogynist, and other off-color comments using the F word. This is truly sad. And let me share with you, if you know anything about karma, you may want to think twice about hiding behind an anonymous screen name as you secretly cuss out a total stranger. Okay? My experience has been that those things have a tendency to boomerang back onto your own head, but in ruthless multiples. If this is you, I'd like for you to remember two ancient truths in life. These are universal truths, well taught and well known through ancient and even Asian philosophy. The first one is both a Christian, Buddhist, and Chinese tenet. And it is simply that you become a big winner in this world through love, healing, and forgiveness. The second tenet is like the first, in that you harvest the seeds of everything you plant, whether those are seeds of love or hate, That means if you plant seeds of anger and insult toward me or anyone else while you hide like a coward behind your screen name, then don't be surprised if all of that becomes the harvest of how others treat you in return. The universal laws of karma, cause and effect, and sowing and reaping are encompassed in this truth. And I did a full-length movie on this exact topic. If you're intuitive enough to watch it, you can look through my gallery for a presentation called Mastering All Metaphysical Laws. Keep in mind that what you are listening to is derived from only a portion of my own personal experience, and the meat of this presentation comes directly from well-known and appreciated authors and psychologists. Incidentally, one of which is Jordan Peterson, and on the polar opposite end of that spectrum, may I say, are the Tate brothers. That doesn't mean any of their material is embedded into this presentation, but if you listen with an open mind, you might even get hints of others, like the great Swiss psychotherapist Dr. Carl Jung, or possibly the philosopher king Marcus Aurelius. Before we dive into the heart of seduction and sensuality as part of the groundwork of understanding, I'd like to present to you that seduction is never a one-size-fits-all methodology. The target man or the target woman has their own personality and character, and it is therefore essential to truly know them before beginning any type of seduction that leads to a sensual or sexual encounter. For example, some folks can be seduced through a sexy dance, while others get excited through hearing the sound of your voice or learning about your workout routine. This means that if you set your sights on someone you want to charm, don't assume that love or sex will magically happen if you say a few practiced pickup lines or show some skin. Desire, sensuality, and seduction are not simply terms that refer to persuading someone into bed with you. Rather, it's all about making them fall in love, fall in lust, or simply fall for you in more ways than one. And that means on an intellectual level as well, especially. Sensuality and sexual lust, for example, is guaranteed to dwindle quickly after sexual satisfaction occurs, obviously. But love and a life partner will endure long term. Therefore, if you're thinking this presentation is about seducing someone so that you can get laid and then running to your next victim for another encounter, then think again. If this is your goal, it's better just to move on to the next video, because none of this is going to work for you. In the grand scheme of things, seduction is actually a targeted form of sales. If you're a very good salesperson, you can be equally good as a seducer. The best seducers practice their art on almost everyone they meet. It's just like any skill that needs to be honed. That means the more you practice, the better you become. This also means getting your mind out of the gutter and not thinking this is only about enticing someone into a sexual or sensual encounter. Try doing that with your manager at work and see how long your job title lasts. As in any worthy endeavor, let's take physical fitness as an example. Once you achieve a certain level of success, your confidence gets a boost because of various hormones that are released in the brain. Some of those hormones are pleasure-based, such as oxytocin, but others are emotionally satisfying ones, such as serotonin and dopamine. When you begin your pursuit to entice and seduce someone, it is of the utmost importance to keep your focus on learning about your target audience, whether that be a business, personal, or sexual pursuit. You must therefore have excellent observation skills while being curious. I advise that you ask many questions because the answers to those questions will become fuel to your seduction efforts. Learn about his or her dreams, for example, their goals, passions, and even hobbies. When you discover that someone's goal is to open up a small coffee shop someday, for example, then you have some of the ammo you need moving forward. Okay, as an example, you can offer your emotional, financial, or intellectual support on their endeavor. They may be looking for someone exactly like you to support their dream of opening up a coffee shop. And it may end up being a romantic seduction at the same time. While your curiosity is activated, it is important to adjust your personality to match that of the person that you're trying to seduce, male or female. Psychologists call this the chameleon effect. This does not need to be permanent or long term, but it does need to be sincere and in direct correlation to the mood and character of the target audience, even if this is not a love-related seduction. For example, if you are normally an extrovert that likes to be the life of the party, but the seducee is an introvert, then one of your possible avenues to entice them might be quiet afternoon walks, or maybe a visit to the library where you both take a seat next to each other and read for a while as you gently make leg contact with them. In business, this is called creating commonality with the buyer. I remember joking around with my son a few years ago when he was single and afraid to approach women. I told him to find someone he was attracted to in the supermarket and do just what we're talking about here. Create some type of commonality to talk about with them. In particular, I said, if you find a good-looking lady checking out the canned corn, you can say to her, how interesting. You like canned corn? I like canned corn. Would you like to get together soon and discuss canned corn and other canned vegetables? Of course, I was joking, but I'm sure you get the gist of the concept here. Remember, men or women, that the art of seduction is indeed a very tactful game, and sometimes this involves very minor forms of manipulation and posing to achieve your goal, whether that goal is bedroom action or a client signing a contract for services. That means don't push or force anything. For example, a religious dogma into the equation. Because if you want to win at this game, being a perfect, sinless human being is not going to get you the prize. Someone just said, is this guy telling me to be a sinful dog to achieve what I want in the game of love? The answer would be no, with a caveat. If your goal is to be Buddha, Jesus, Joseph Smith, or Mother Teresa, then mastering seduction and sensuality is not the right video or topic for you either. I said a moment ago that you need to ask questions and be curious about the person that you're wanting to seduce, either in a sensual way or other ways. Adding to that, it's equally as important to ask questions about yourself. Okay, take a serious introspective look at the type of person you truly are, so that if you need to adapt your character to someone else, there may be some rigorous adjustments needed to make the seduction work. For example, if you're not into physical fitness, but your target audience is an aerobics instructor or a CrossFit enthusiast, then you will lose at this game if you do not adopt a very healthy and physical lifestyle. Because in this instance, let's just say no pain, no gain. Okay, so in this example, if you don't start learning about CrossFit training or practicing rigorous, painful aerobics, there's a high probability of failure unless you're a billionaire or a vampire. You may be thinking, where in the hell did he come up with that? How would I circumvent tough physical fitness training by simply being a billionaire or a vampire? First of all, vampires do not exist, but they exemplify danger and mystery. Many women like the risk of being associated with kissing or touching someone that is dangerous. Whether that means you're a kung fu black belt, a stunt car driver for a major film production company, a state trooper, maybe even an FBI agent. If those are your professions, you'll probably be in great shape anyway, so becoming a CrossFit expert to woo your target lover is not going to be any problem at all. Secondly, there is a belief in psychological circles that women or men, if that's your persuasion, are attracted to and easily willing to be seduced by the super rich. Okay, for example, someone with 300 million in cash or a billionaire. If you are too dull-minded to understand the reasoning here, think of the financial security, okay? Think of being able to live in any kind of home that you want, have any kind of jewelry that you want, drive any kind of car that you want, or clothing, and the list goes on and on. That means an unattractive billionaire might be able to easily seduce that aerobics instructor without lifting a single weight, stretching a single muscle, or doing much physically, maybe just being a weekend golfer. Now remember, this works both ways. And men can easily be targets of clever women that know the game of seduction, and there are many. Some guys are so allured by a sexy body that they are easy targets to any woman that entices them in a physical way, only later to realize they just lost title to their home or bank account. So be careful, because although we are talking about healthy ways to seduce others, this information can be used for evil instead of good, like I previously said, regardless of the seducer's intentions. Hopefully they are not more than seducing someone into the bedroom or maybe getting a new client to sign at the dotted line. But regardless of your motives, remember, it is all about understanding yourself, number one, and also what your target audience desires and craves. Then simply give them what they want. Plain and simple. This even works with developing social media followers or platonic friendships. Let me give you an example. As you've noticed from a few of my videos, I personally do not particularly love sexy or pretty Japanese or Chinese models. But all of my viewers seem to get excited when I post them in my videos. I'm therefore indirectly seducing views by giving folks what they want. In essence, I'm designing a creative lure. That leads me to my next point regarding seduction and sensuality. It is essential that you understand that luring your target is a key step of this process. And I'm not talking about a creepy kind of stalking lure. So stay tuned. Like in my dopey example of the canned corn, your focus will be to spark their interest in order to begin building trust. Okay? You therefore are trying to become a friend instead of a romantic interest. Okay? Listen carefully, which means pickup lines do not apply here. Okay? None of that nonsense works when it comes to seduction. For example, saying, "You caught my eye," or "I noticed you're an attractive woman. What's your name?" These are the kinds of pickup lines that might work in some instances, but are not part of the conversation regarding seduction. Okay, all of which begins with luring someone into a friendship through the creation of common interests. This allows your potential lover to become more relaxed in the beginning rather than stressed that they will eventually have to reciprocate with flirtation or a reaction to your pickup lines or the giving away of their phone number, okay? The key here is to create mystery and intrigue rather than laying it all out on the table for a decision to be made, okay? Which is exactly what is done when a man approaches a woman, pretends to be friendly, and then quickly asks her for her IG or cell phone number. Going back to the topic of being very cautious about your target, I need to clarify something again with another caveat, let's say. This in no way means to stalk her or him, either online or physically following them around, okay? That's something a desperate loser without self-respect would do. Now, if you work with someone, you might be able to do this indirectly, but you have to be extremely cautious not to appear creepy, okay? Are you a creepy guy that sends out non-verbal messages, kind of displaying that you're privately a pervert? Don't do that, okay? If so, you might as well go find a drunken airhead, because creepiness and seduction are two polar opposites. You must therefore be somewhat polished and refined in this endeavor. One way of doing that is to become a mirror of the person you are studying. What am I trying to say? As you're studying someone, and for example, you notice they like to wear the color red, maybe it's time you start purchasing red clothing, such as shirts or belts. Additionally, if you notice they have a particular set of beliefs or values, such as a political persuasion, then that can be ammo for your future conversations with this person. In essence, you want them to gain comfort talking with you so that they can see that you both share common interests or beliefs. While you're doing that, and after you've created that higher level of comfort or confidence, then at last you've earned the privilege to be a little flirtatious without throwing out your old stupid pickup lines. I remember a friend of mine in college would always use the same stale pickup line with women, which worked occasionally, but eventually it petered out into obscurity. Here's what he said. "Excuse me, miss. I'm very embarrassed because I don't normally do this, but it's just that I thought you were very attractive and I was just wondering if you were dating someone right now." So that's not what I mean by being flirtatious, by you using ridiculous pickup lines. This concept is not to open yourself up as being available and attainable, okay? Like in my friend's stale pickup line. You want to give the impression that you might be with someone right now, or that your life might be filled with goal setting and a relationship is not your main focus, okay? Here's an example of what I'm talking about. "Hey, Veronica, I noticed you always wear cute little athletic shoes. I've been looking for some sporty shoes lately, and Maybe we can go on a shoe buying adventure someday, then run off into the sunset. Okay, that's what I mean by being a little flirtatious. The point is to not try to pull off something big, and I'm talking especially to the men now, such as getting her on a date immediately, or a romantic dinner where you're both staring at each other across the table, trying to look cool while you're scarfing down a large meal. That's not the picture here. Instead, you're trying to build intrigue, spark interest, create curiosity in who you potentially are. Additionally, never ever lay all your cards out on the table as to what your dreams or hopes are, even the hobbies that you pursue, or other personal information like family matters. Remember, this is a slow dance, not a race down a quarter-mile drag strip in 2 seconds. Part of mastering sensuality and seduction is the ability to master the art of using the right words at the right time. You must therefore become very clever at being what we call a wordsmith. Okay, you are crafting your words and sentences creatively all the time, not blasting out a word salad like some ridiculous politician or salesman. You're using your words to direct their thoughts and emotions toward an attraction. For example, if you discover that your target has a particular insecurity, let's say you overhear that she wishes she had fuller hair or was taller in stature, then flattering her about how great her hair looks today may earn you points. As an example, Veronica, it's amazing how tall you look in those shoes. What's your secret? Now, here is where it gets interesting, okay? Once you've established the friendship and created a feeling of comfort with her or him, then it's time to go to the next level. Keep in mind, this is after she or he has given you the hint that there is a mutual hint and maybe a mutual understanding there might be some romance there, okay? Possibly even after you've begun some informal dating. By informal dating, I mean going out as friends, going for walks without kissing and touching, okay? So after the friendship is fully developed and you're both flirting slightly and talking regularly, the next step to this plan is to actually take out your calendar and plan a trip away from your current environment, okay, where you're currently located in, let's say. For example, it's time to plan a road trip, flight to the beach, better yet, a cruise to Hawaii. What you're attempting to do is isolate them from the familiarity of family, friends, and work environments. Relationship experts will usually agree this will be the tipping point in the relationship. The goal here is to get the target of your seduction away from anyone or anything, including cell phones, that can interfere with your efforts to entice and excite. On this trip or vacation, the key point is to end up at a locale that is somewhat isolated. Maui, for example, where you can really lay on the charm and seal the deal. This is the time where you can start going on romantic walks, holding hands, dining exquisitely, maybe giving her a nice red rose, and of course going back to the hotel room afterwards and enjoying a sensual dessert. If you've been patient enough to wait until you get to this type of isolated paradise, then only a fool would fail and return home just a friend. As you know, the end goal is to become their passionate lover, one that's enjoyed all the pleasures associated with that seduction, with that love and sensuality. The interesting thing about an isolated trip to a tropical island, for example, or even a distant international city, a romantic city like Venice or Paris, is that there will be an air of danger associated with it. You are both going to an unknown place where there might be a situation where you're both put in a little jeopardy, okay, a little danger. For example, a walk in Hawaii might expose you both to wild animals, or a trip to Venice could expose you to thieves and pickpockets. The point is that if you're a man, preferably a strong man, you will be able to protect your lady, okay? That you got this handled, that you can fight off the idiots or the animals out there and save the day, okay? Before you leave, however, here's key. It's essential you sway her or his emotions and hint that you may be heading into harm's way, but that you will protect or rescue her because you have the experience and you know exactly what to do. Okay, shifting gears slightly. You're back home in a familiar environment and have discovered so many things about the person that you've seduced, or looking at it in a slightly different angle. Maybe you never went on that isolated trip to Venice or Hawaii, and you're still in the midst of the initial seduction, but have had multiple conversations with him or her and have discovered many things about their past. You see, to truly know someone and be able to properly seduce them, it's essential to uncover a few key things about their past, such as bad relationships, drama, or traumatic experiences during childhood. For example, a death of a family member or a best friend. After you've discovered things from their past that are still bothering them or that have saddened them, it's time to become their own personal psychotherapist. For example, they lost their father in a car accident when they were only 7 years old. You discovered that it was a drunk driver that was behind this tragedy. Your role as their counselor and confidant will be to console them, comfort them, and maybe even share a similar tragedy in your life. Okay, that can even lead to you both going to a support group together. This is all part of the slow seduction process. Okay, that said, I'd like to share with you a topic that I cover in a lot of my videos that is considered taboo and off limits in the developmental stages of a love relationship or even a seduction. And it's a topic of spirituality or even religion. The key here is to tie this topic into all the knowledge you have about this person, such as the death of their dog, a childhood trauma, their insecurity about not being tall, or even some danger that they have faced in the past. Let me say from the start, this is not for the dull-minded, okay? You have to be extremely adept at using the right spiritual words at the right time, because you are going to be connecting all of the emotional dots here, okay? Never ever try to pull this off if you're intoxicated, tired, or stressed out, because it's certain to backfire on you. The goal here is to continue the process of becoming a soulmate, a profound friend, and a trusted confidant. Okay, when it comes to spirituality, the goal is not to try to force some dogmatic God down their throat while you're consoling or counseling them. Okay, for example, you're LDS and you begin attempting to tie the teachings of Joseph Smith to her traumatic childhood. Okay, it doesn't work that way. Relationship therapists and counselors will usually agree it's much safer to consider meditation to a neutral spirit or to have conversations about the universe and divine forces versus trying to embark on a journey of dragging her to your church for some sermon or message of salvation, okay? As an example, she was bitten by a snake, okay, and has a deep fear of snakes, spiders, and harmful creatures since her childhood. It's therefore your job to suggest ways to erase those bad memories. Sometimes it means to expose them to that fear from a distance, possibly going to a zoo and looking at a snake through a glass window, okay? Like I said, so it's going to be your job to suggest ways to erase or remove those bad memories. Maybe this means hypnosis. Maybe it means entering into a Buddhist type of meditation for 30 minutes every evening, or possibly even studying together on how others have overcome similar traumas. If you're successful at this endeavor, she or he will become eternally grateful to you, and it will further turn you into a deep friend of theirs, a future lover, and even someone that depends on you for spiritual guidance. And this leads me to the next point of seduction, which is to create dependency. Your aim is to make your friendship so deep and intertwined that without you, her life would be empty and would begin to unravel, okay? Obviously, this is the final stage to seduction, but not the final point of what I'm trying to make today. This dependency on you as a seducer is the culmination of all the other steps we've discussed, such as going on a romantic isolated trip, or creating commonality, or being her therapist and best friend. So, what am I saying? You've done all the legwork and have done an outstanding job in your seduction, saying all the right things, okay, going to all the right places and enjoying all the right adventures with her or him. He or she will become so enthralled with you that she or he now depends on you for protection, spiritual guidance, friendship, entertainment, and more. Okay, now you've turned them on in such a way that just the thought of you gets her love juices flowing. It's time to talk about how you can sabotage this great seduction that you've accomplished. So in order to keep the seduction going long after you've both experienced intimacy and sensuality, there are several steps you must take so that a breakup does not occur. Please allow me to go through a short list of items you must vehemently avoid in order to continue on with this great adventure that you've worked so hard to attain. These turn-offs scream that you are not the intriguing, high-class guy she originally thought you were. And maybe that you're just an average man putting on a show. This might lead her to discovering that you were just playing a manipulative game to get her into bed, exposing you as a poser and a liar. So avoid these mistakes at all costs. The idea behind what I'm saying is that if you have been authentic and honest from the start, okay, because if you were, none of what I'm about to discuss will rear its ugly head. Okay, so the first error is that you have poor personal hygiene. If there's one thing that will put the skids quicker than anything, okay, put the skids on quicker than anything regarding a seduction, it is to have bad body odor and bad breath. Added to this topic is someone that has no problem with burping or gassing in front of a lady or a man. Talk about a seduction killer. Let me tell you, another mistake is being a cell phone or a computer addict, okay? The new term for this is e-nerd, in case you're wondering. And connected to this problem is your need to have your life story online through social media, whether that's through Facebook, IG, TikTok, or Instagram. This constant need for validation screams out how insecure you really are. Maybe this is because you never got the right love and encouragement as a child, but a smart woman or man can see you need this nonsensical validation all the time, and it will reverse the hard work that you've put in to seduce them. Also related to this topic is your need to be glued to your damn cell phone nonstop from morning until night. You also use speakerphones all the time and want others to hear your voice in supposedly important conversation. This also yells out that you're a lonely loser that needs validation and is suffering from many insecurities. No sexy or classy woman or man wants an electronic nerd around. And this works in reverse, okay? If you're a woman trying to seduce a man, the point is very few people desire someone that is stuck to an electronic device. If you're a man, like a real man, your lady wants you to be focused on protecting her, okay? Protecting her in the location that you are currently in, okay? And not staring downward at your phone, but looking around at the surroundings in case there's trouble. Another seduction killer is your use of drugs and alcohol. This includes any form of drug, even sleeping pills, pain pills, nicotine, whatever. When someone is drugged or drunk, they usually talk loud like an idiot, become arrogant or stupid and sleepy. Unless you're seducing a fellow druggie or drunk, this is virtually guaranteed to put the brakes on your seduction and reverse everything that you've done so far. How much alcohol or drugs is too much? The answer is that if he or she is a non-user, you shouldn't even be asking that question. Okay, I'd like to touch on the topic of sarcasm, witty banter, and verbal abusiveness. Okay, it's very interesting to me that many young and pretty women and men like to be sarcastic. I'm not sure why this is, maybe because they think they're more important than others and they're able to get away with it, but it's been my experience that this occurs quite frequently, and it is written about by many relationship counselors. The point here is to not enter into sarcasm with her or him, especially if you're in the process of seducing or even post-seduction romance, okay? Most folks do not understand that even a minor bit of sarcasm is actually a minor amount of insult, okay, that is disguised behind humor. If you take that bait, then don't be surprised if your love or sensual relationship begins to reverse and turn into a just friends situation. One of our last seduction killers is your lack of ambition in life, okay? For example, you're just a 9-to-5er and completely forget about your job or desire to earn more or advance, okay? You forget about that after 5 p.m., let's say. In essence, you become brain dead and think about just relaxing in front of some entertainment device, okay? You're a believer that it's best to do just enough to get by at work, okay? Don't put in anything extra, but you have no entrepreneurial ambition or even a side hustle. This comes across as laziness, okay? And that you're just a mediocre person. If you're seducing a high quality person, a high value person, it's highly unlikely that they will stay enticed or enthralled with anyone that has no ambition or drive to succeed further in life, okay? And let me add, this is not about money, okay? Let's clear that up. But it's about drive and ambition, okay? Even if you're retired, you should at least have the ambition to be a great investor or maybe even a great golfer. So once you've seduced someone and there appears it appears that they have gladly received your advances. I have some more advice, and if you want to avoid looking weak and insecure, especially if you're a man, then don't be Mr. Nice Guy all the time, okay? Dating and love relationships and an ongoing romance is not the place for a Mr. Nice Guy routine that is a perpetual way of being. For example, in the beginning stages, maybe you're pursuing a coworker and starting to go on lunch dates to slowly seduce them. Instead of building intrigue and being a little mysterious, you lay your romantic intentions out from the start, okay? Such as bringing flowers or maybe some other gift like jewelry. And you spend much of the date looking stricken by her beauty and constantly complimenting everything about her. If you do this Mr. Nice Guy nonsense too soon, she'll run from you as fast as her cute little feet will carry her. Okay, acting like that comes across as totally untruthful and desperate, and any attempts to seduce her will be blocked. In essence, you'll just be another desperate guy, another horny bastard that's trying to romance her too quickly, instead of an interesting man that is slowly growing the seduction into something that will be exciting and eventually sensual, okay? She or he will become distant and cold, okay? When you pull the Mr. Nice Guy or Mr. Nice Girl routine or Mr. Romantic act in the beginning. Remember, this again, for the 37th time, is a long-term strategy that requires patience. So jumping in to gift giving, saying romantic things and that type of thing is a big no-no, even when you practice calling her, especially when you practice calling her too often, texting her too frequently, all of which are major errors that most men make. This labels you as the polar opposite of being a great seducer. The point I'm trying to make here is that even though sensuality or romance is your end game, it's of the utmost importance to make it seem like this is the last thing on your mind, okay? You have to get sex and sensuality, let's say, out of your mind, get your mind out of the gutter, and at times, this means a little manipulation. I'm so sorry to say, but let's call this pretending. At times, even pretending you don't even know what the topic of sex is all about, okay? That will earn you brownie points. As we wrap things up, please allow me to share that if you know anything about practicing the law of attraction, you'll understand that as you make these positive changes, okay, about romance and become more of a seducer rather than a hopeless or desperate romantic, then, looking at the law of attraction now, then the universe will mysteriously arrange the right meetings for you, and there eventually will be an attractive beauty or a handsome hunk that will start moving and breathing in your direction, one that is open to a grand seduction, and someone you can both trust and find great companionship with. Now, who doesn't want that? In essence, the universe will begin molding your circumstances and the events in your life, shifting the winds of love in your favor and changing the elements of your circumstances so that you will meet up with the right target, not to simply seduce, sexually use, then discard, but someone that you can realize is a truly your attractive life partner. And if you're not careful, you might delightfully realize you're being romantically seduced in return. In fact, I declare that if you follow my advice here today, your dream lover will unexpectedly show up soon with a perfectly matching personality to yours and with a beauty that goes far beyond looks. someone that is ready, willing, and able to be properly enticed by the great seducer you've become. Thank you.